Hey, what's happening, guys? What is going on? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Saturday, December 31st, 2022. It is the last day of the year. You know, these past couple years, from 2020 till today, everything just seems like a jumble. You know, when I try to look back and think about, like, when did the Mexican beer cough start? When did it end? When did masks go away? All the events, all the big occurrences that have happened over the past couple years, they all just kind of blend into one. And I think that feeling is kind of the same amongst a lot of people. One thing I had wanted to do for today's video is kind of give you guys a little timeline of some of like the major events of 2022, just to kind of wrap up the year. But I don't have a ton of time today, and I was a little unprepared for today's video. But we are going to be covering a lot of interesting stuff. We're going to talk about how the markets kind of finished up 2022, stock market, real estate market, crypto. We're going to give you guys some thoughts and predictions for 2023. Some tips on how to have a good 2023. We're going to talk a little bit about the Andrew Tate story. We got some new developments on Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. There's kind of an interesting story about a Seattle tech worker who was inspired by the movie Office Space to basically install a program to steal money, like a fraction of a penny at a time. Wound up stealing about $400,000. That was interesting. Home Depot founders saying that nobody wants to work. So we do have some interesting stuff to talk about in today's video. I'm going to try to make today's video a little bit shorter. It's early in the morning on New Year's Eve. I'm having my coffee. I got to get out to the gym and then got some things to do to prepare for tonight. One feeling that I think a lot of people have is a lot of people don't really know where to park their money or do with their money or what to do with their money right now, right? If you got cash, your cash is losing money to inflation. But if you look at the markets, and I'm going to get into this in a second, but I mean, the S&P 500 is down almost 20% on the year. The Dow down almost 9%. The NASDAQ closing out the year down over 33%. The Russell 3000 down over 20%. What do you do with your money? Where do you park your money? If you leave your money in cash, you're losing at least 9% a year, guaranteed. Likely more than that. But if you put your money into the markets, you're potentially losing 20 to 30%. So what do you do? And I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, where are you parking your cash? What do you plan on doing with your money in 2023? Where are you going to put your money? And I'd also love to hear your guys' predictions on what our market's going to look like in 2023. What's the housing market going to look like? How bad are layoffs going to get? Any other predictions you guys have for 2023? I would love to hear them. Let's just kind of get right into this. So, I have been given some movie and show recommendations. So I know New Year's Day for a lot of people is kind of a lazy day. Either you're sitting around watching bowl games or maybe sitting around the house having a lazy day watching movies. I'd actually seen this one in the past, but last night I had some friends over and we watched the movie Greenland with Russell Crowe. So if you like kind of like end of the world, asteroids hitting the world movies, Greenland was a pretty good flick. If you're looking for a movie to watch tonight or tomorrow, check that one out, Greenland. So 2022 was the worst year for stocks since 2008. This isn't really surprising since we've been on a never-ending bull run for over the past decade. But this year, the S&P 500 was down 19.4% on the year, compared to a 27% gain last year in 2021 and a 20% gain in 2020. Think about that, from 2020 to 2020. 2020 and 2021, 2 years when pretty much the economy was shut down. People were locked in their homes. A lot of people weren't working. Nothing was being produced. Global trade pretty much stopped. And the S&P 500 rose 47%, almost 50%. How crazy is that? If you look at the Dow, this year the Dow is down 8.7% compared to a 20.28% gain in 2021. If we look at the NASDAQ, NASDAQ is going to close out the year down 33.10% compared to being up 21.4% last year in 2021. And the Russell 3000 is down over 20% this year compared to it being up 16.3% in 2021. Looking at the real estate market, I think we're kind of at a stalemate right now between buyers and sellers, and it's going to be interesting to see who will crack first, right? Buyers don't want to buy at these prices. They're expecting things to go lower. They also don't want to pay these interest rates that we have right now. On the flip side, you have sellers who maybe don't need to sell their homes, but are putting the homes on the market, and they don't want to continue dropping prices to attract buyers. So it'll be interesting to see in 2023 which side winds up cracking first. I'm not really sure what to believe about the housing market. You got half the people out there saying there's going to be a crash worse than 2008, and you have other people who say, best case scenario, the market's going to plateau. Worst case scenario, maybe we fall down 14%. But when you look at some markets where houses have doubled and even tripled in the past 2 or 3 years, even a 25% pullback is nothing. Redfin announces that housing inventory is increasing. So, for a while, people haven't been listing their homes. The inventory is increasing. We know the rules of supply and demand. If you have more supply than you do have demand, that's going to drive prices down. So I do think prices could dip lower in 2023. If we look at the amount of Google searches for homes per sale, it's 38% lower right now than at this time last year. The amount of traffic touring homes, the amount of people going to look at homes, going to open houses, is down 69% compared to last year. But here's an odd stat. The national home prices are actually up 0.7%. So home prices are still rising, especially in markets like Florida. Home prices continue going up. Talked about this in the video the other day, but in West Palm Beach, over half of all purchases were cash purchases. I got a buddy who literally just drove down to West Palm Beach yesterday, packed up his U-Haul here in Chicago, moved down to West Palm Beach, and I think a 2-bedroom, nothing special, not like a luxury building or anything, but a 2-bedroom is costing him $1,800 a month. Let's see, thoughts and predictions for 2023. I think that real estate will continue to slump. Again, unclear if there'll be like a massive crash, but I do think there will be some deals. And I'm already starting to see some deals, but the deals seem to be on dated and distressed homes. So we've talked about Americans don't have cash. Americans are tapped out. So the amount of people who can buy a home and still have money to fix it up and repair it or update it, there's less people who have cash to do that, which means there's less buyers. Laws of supply and demand, those houses are going to be cheaper. So if you're looking for a deal in 2023, we don't know if the entire market will go on sale, but at the very least, if you can find a dated or a distressed home, there likely will be some good deals. Stocks, I think, will continue to slide. Tech stocks will continue to dump, and I think the rest of the market will be dragged down with it. I think we'll start seeing heavy layoffs by March. I'd kind of talked about how, a crash is imminent. It kind of got pushed off past the midterms. Then we were in the holiday season. Companies don't like laying people off during the holidays, but we did see a lot of layoffs leading up to Thanksgiving and leading up to Christmas. But I think a lot of companies probably tried to hold off until the new year. So I think as we get into 2023 here, you're going to start seeing layoffs start in January, going to get heavier in February, and I think we're going to see some mass layoffs by March of 2023. I think Bitcoin, the crypto markets have been pretty much trading sideways, up 0.5% today, down 0.5% tomorrow. That's just kind of the way they've been going. I think we will see Bitcoin drop below $12,000 within the first 6 months of the year. I think we'll see Ethereum go under $1,000. I think you're going to see a lot of restaurants and store closures near you. We know that nearly half of small business, or over half of restaurants, couldn't pay their rent in November. We know something like 43 or 47% of small businesses can't pay their rent. I think it was 38% of real estate offices couldn't pay their rent. I think you're going to see a lot of businesses and stores and restaurants going out of business in 2023. Not only do, the cost of going out to eat, even going to a fast casual place like Chipotle or Five Guys. I talked about after a volleyball game a couple weeks ago, I didn't feel like cooking. It was late at night, and I stopped by a Five Guys, and a double cheeseburger and a small, tiny fry, no drink or anything, wound up costing me over $18. So, if you look at two people going to get Five Guys, getting a fry, a drink, and a burger, I mean, you're looking at over $50 to go get a burger. I ordered a pizza last night. Granted, it was a stadium pizza, but I ordered a pizza for my girlfriend. I had a couple buddies over. A pizza and an appetizer of fried ravioli or breaded ravioli was over $50. People don't have the money to continue eating out, so there aren't the customers to support these restaurants. They're also having a hard time finding employees. People don't want to work in a restaurant or hospitality or fast food business. The idea that your town can sustain 4 Five Guys or 5 Chipotles. I'm sorry, guys. You guys all corrected me on how I say Chipotle. Chipotles. The idea that your city has the workers and the customers to sustain 5 Chipotles, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think a lot of businesses are going to wind up closing down. A lot of restaurants are going to wind up closing down. And you may have to drive further to go find that Walgreens. You may have to drive further to go find a Chipotle restaurant to eat at. I know that Biden said that we're willing to dump as much money as is necessary into Ukraine. We're not going to give up. But I do think that the war in Russia and Ukraine is going to fizzle out in 2023. I think 2023 is going to get pretty ugly when everybody is struggling, when Americans' businesses are going out of business, when people are on government assistance, when people are losing their homes. I don't think there's going to be the appetite to continue dumping tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars into Ukraine. So I do think that war is going to kind of fizzle out. Here's a prediction for 2023, and I don't think I'm really going out on a limb making this prediction. I think TikTok will be either banned or at the very least heavily regulated in 2023. We already have, something like 23 different states have banned TikTok on government phones and government devices. There's a number of states suing TikTok over their data collection practices, over how they serve content to children. So TikTok, at the very least, will be heavily regulated in 2023. It might wind up being banned entirely. And I think it's very possible that some other tech stocks will go under. The VC money has dried up. There isn't cheap money out there. It's hard to get loans. And I think it's going to be kind of crazy to watch, but it's weird that like a company like Snapchat, which is used by millions and millions and millions of people, but doesn't make any money. There's no reason for a business to exist if it can't generate a profit, if it can't generate money. And for the past decade or so, there's been VC money, there's been cheap money. These companies could sustain themselves. But there are a lot of zombie companies out there, and it'll be really interesting to watch how there's a company or a service who's really mainstream, that's really used by a lot of people, but that's going to go away because they're not profitable. How to have a good year in 2023. I'd love to hear some tips from you guys, so go ahead and drop some comments in the comments section below. I think my biggest tip that I have is just kind of disconnect from the matrix as much as possible. Don't rely on restaurants for food. They're way overpriced. The quality of service and food you're getting is shittier. Go get yourself a crock pot, buy yourself a rice cooker, learn to cook. You can make much better food at home. You can use much better quality ingredients. And once you learn to cook, it's actually going to taste a lot better, and you're going to save a lot of money as well. Buy some gold and silver. Don't be completely reliant on banks and markets. And we've seen a lot of scams, a lot of companies who are undercapitalized. FTX went under, Voyager went under. Companies are going under left and right. Be careful which third parties you're trusting with your money in this next year. Here's a kind of a good tip. This one might be kind of expensive, but get yourself a wood stove or a pellet stove. We continue to see problems with the power grid. The power grid can't keep up with all the EVs. It can't keep up with these cold snaps that we're having. We're seeing the power grids being attacked across the country, North Carolina, Washington, among other places. I've been looking at getting a wood or pellet stove. It's just one more way to kind of disconnect from the system. And also I just kind of like the ambiance of it on a snowy day or whatever as well. Tune out of mainstream media as much as possible. There's plenty of independent media out there. You can follow people on social media. Find yourself a small YouTuber who shares the news. But drop out of following the mainstream media. Tighten up your relationships with family and friends. Get in better shape. Eat better. Work out. Stay active. Take care of your body. More and more studies have been coming out showing how the number one way to protect yourself from the Mexican beer cough is by taking care of your body, staying active, getting regular aerobic exercise. Continue saving money. Find some additional revenue streams. Start a side hustle. Get a second job. In down markets, in down years, in recessions and depressions, are one of the greatest ways for the little guy to kind of make it, so to speak. Let's talk a little bit about the Andrew Tate story. I don't want to get too much into this. Andrew Tate, he's kind of like the villain of America. One thing that I think is funny is Andrew Tate, his message isn't really very different from, say, Tony Robbins or Jordan Peterson or Dan Pena or Grant Cardone or a lot of these other guys. It's just his delivery that's outrageous. Everybody acts like Andrew Tate is so terrible and so controversial. But if you look at like Howard Stern back in the 90s, like Andrew Tate is kind of tame compared to some of the things that that Howard Stern used to say and do. But the world around us has changed. People get upset about little things, things that you could say a long time ago, you can't say now. Here's just kind of a funny example. I was hanging out with my little nephew a couple weeks back, and he was telling me about how he and his friends play a game called Jackpot. Now, he's like 5 or 6 years old. But Jackpot, he said they have a football. They throw the football, somebody gets the football, and then everybody else tries to tackle them, and they call this game Jackpot. When I was a kid, we used to play that same game, but we called it, I'm not going to say it on YouTube because this is YouTube, but we used to play a game called Smear the Blank. I don't think any of us knew what the blank was, but that's just kind of what the game is called, and it just kind of shows how, things from the past aren't acceptable today. Me and my girlfriend were watching some old reruns of Cheers the other day, and just some of the things that were being said on Cheers, which at the time was like a mainstream primetime sitcom, would get people canceled today. So Andrew Tate saying things that maybe back in the 90s wouldn't have been that controversial, but today, the whole world will come down on you. He kind of reminds me of a lot of these rappers on DJ Vlad. I don't know how many of you guys follow like rap or hip hop. There was a rapper called AR Ab, and he was a decent rapper, I guess, but what he was really famous for is he would, talk very openly about getting in shootouts in the street, selling drugs, being involved in gangs, and he wound up getting arrested. I think he's in prison for 50 plus years or something like that, but it kind of reminded me of the Andrew Tate thing, because this rapper, and a lot of rappers like him, this rapper wouldn't have been famous unless he had said these outrageous things and been so controversial. But it's also those things that wound up bringing him down. And I kind of look at Andrew Tate in the same way. Andrew Tate would just be another run-of-the-mill online guru. He wouldn't be sitting down with Piers Morgan. You wouldn't have Joe Rogan talking about him. You wouldn't have Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment talking about him. It's because of these outrageous things and how controversial he is that he gained the level of fame and notoriety that he did, but that's also what wound up leading to his downfall. If you guys want to learn more about that situation, there's a couple interesting YouTube videos that have come out in recent days and yesterday. There's a YouTuber I really like called Matthew Cox. I think his channel is Matthew Cox True Crime. He did a pretty in-depth video about the whole Andrew Tate situation. And then also Valuetainment has done 3 or 4 videos, or at least has 3 or 4 clips out there about the situation. So Andrew Tate was arrested yesterday. I initially thought he was released because he was tweeting at like 3 or 4 in the morning after he'd already been taken in. So I don't know if they gave him access to his phone in jail or in the police station. But apparently he and his brother and I think 2 other people are going to be held for another month as they investigate. If you guys have any other details or anything about that story that you want to share, drop them down below. But I'm not going to go too much in depth on that one. So let's talk a little bit about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. So apparently there may be more money to be returned to FTX customers. When all this kicked off, apparently the Bahamas had seized $3.5 billion in either cash or crypto from FTX. This hadn't really been reported on before. I think initially we were hearing that he had upwards of $40 or $50 billion worth of obligations and debt, and there was like less than $1 billion left. Well, apparently the Bahamian government seized $3.5 billion in cash and crypto from FTX. So that's potentially money that can be returned to FTX customers. Everybody is still likely not going to be made whole, but at least people will likely get some money back. Apparently Sam Bankman-Fried also recently cashed out almost $700,000 from a crypto exchange located in the Seychelles and has been trading on a bunch of non-KYC marketplaces. He may wind up back in prison. This may have violated his bond. Apparently, when he was let out on bond, that $250 million bond, has to live with his parents. He was not allowed to spend or move over $1,000 without court approval. So he may wind up getting locked up again. I'm not going to go too much into depth on this article, but there was an article on Zero Hedge today. You guys can check it out if you want. A Seattle tech worker who was inspired by the movie Office Space stole over $400,000. If you guys haven't seen Office Space, watch it. It's an awesome movie. It's one of my favorites. But what they did in the movie, these 3 guys who wound up getting laid off by, I think the company was named Initech, they wound up, I think they took some idea from like a Superman movie. They wrote some program that would basically take fractions of a penny from the company. Now, nobody would notice fractions of a penny disappearing but collectively and at this huge volume, it would wind up being a significant amount of money. So apparently a tech worker in, I think it was Tacoma, Washington, wound up doing the same thing, wound up getting caught. If you guys want to hear the whole story, check out the article on Zero Hedge. A former White House advisor by the name of Dr. Scott Atlas came out the other day and said that Twitter censorship during the Mexican beer cough killed people and prevented people from having information they needed to make informed decisions. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Let's see. There was an article the other day out. Home Depot's founder says nobody wants to work and nobody gives a damn. Billionaire Home Depot co-founder, age 93, blames socialism for destroying capitalism as he slams Biden and woke people and Harvard grads for putting obstacles in the way of entrepreneurial success. We'll talk about this more in the new year, but Mike Rowe goes on about this a lot. Potentially upwards of 25% of working age males have just dropped out of the system, dropped out of the workforce. The Fed and the U.S. government has destroyed the buying power of our money, and so I think a lot of people feel like I can work hard, I can save money, I can do all the right things that I'm supposed to do. But when the buying power of my money is being destroyed through inflation, when the price of the average home is damn near $500,000, wages haven't kept up with college, wages haven't kept up with inflation. What's the point of working hard if there's no reward for doing so? And people are just deciding to drop out of the system and become NEETs. Looks like Southwest flights are getting back on track and back to normal. They still have some canceled flights every day, but it's not the thousands of canceled flights that we had earlier in the week. And there was another interesting article that came out that found that downtown Chicago is less than half as busy as it was pre-Mexican beer cough. There's other cities that are doing even worse, but think about that. 2018, 2019, the amount of traffic, the amount of people out at bars, the amount of people out shopping, the amount of people downtown in the Loop working in 2019 compared to today is 50% less. And if you guys go downtown Chicago, you'll notice it. It's an absolute ghost town. People don't want to go down there. Things just haven't returned from the Mexican beer cough, and also the crime and everything else down there. Just people don't want to be down there. People are leaving the city. And some other cities that actually fared worse than Chicago are Portland and San Francisco. It seems that the cities that had the strictest lockdowns, shut down businesses, etc., they have been the slowest to recover, here as things have kind of opened back up. But I think that's kind of everything that I got for you guys today. It looks like we're at 22 minutes, so I won't ramble on too much longer. I got to get to the gym, clean up the house, do a bunch of other stuff today. But I'd love to hear some comments from you guys. Like, what are you planning on doing with your money in 2023? Like, what's the best thing to do with your money? Is cash better? Is gold better? Or is the stock market better? What predictions do you have for 2023 as far as like the markets? Is the Mexican beer cough going to come back? What's going on with the war in Ukraine? What's going to happen with crypto? I'd love to hear your guys' predictions for 2023. If you guys have any tips for 2023, would love to hear those as well. And what's your take or what's your opinion on the Andrew Tate situation? Drop a comment down below. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of these issues. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful New Year's Eve and a happy New Year, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.